Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is George Kingori. I'm an online finance guy who speaks about all things finance. How you can be able to save, how you can be able to invest, and how you can be able to grow in your financial affairs. And today I'm going to speak about misconceptions that people have about wealthy individuals, about rich people. These misconceptions that you have classified the rich people in a box, and I'm talking about the truly wealthy people. So what are these misconceptions that you have? The first thing is that they wear Gucci and Prada and fancy labels. Let me tell you one thing is for sure. People who are rich and wealthy do not want to show a lot of attention to themselves, and such brands as Gucci and Prada and all these things attract a lot of attention to themselves. In fact, they prefer classier labels that are less revealing, that are less about the brand and more about the quality and the value that they receive from the utility of using this good or service, not necessarily just a brand name. So they will go, for example, for a nice watch that is leather, has a leather buckle, and is able to show a nice interface and is classy, rather than a watch that is all blinged up and with all these fancy things. So they don't go for the blitz and the glamour, they go for practical things. So they do not wear those labels that people assume they wear. The people who wear them are people who want to exude a certain level or class that they are trying to get to. So are the people who wanna be rich people, not the really wealthy individuals who find wearing a big bling on their hands, on their wrists, too much work. So that is one misconception. The other thing is that they drive fancy sports cars. Let me tell you for an example of the rich people that I know. They do not buy a car because it is fancy, because it's a sports car. They do not want to show. In fact, really wealthy individuals want to live like normal people and want to get less of this attention, because remember, there's a lot of attention that is given to rich people, and majority of them want to live below the radar. So they buy a car. In fact, they drive big SUVs, not because they are classy, but because they are safe. So they regard safety above all things. So they feel safe. These additionally big cars are able also to go anywhere and everywhere they may desire to go, and have a meeting anywhere and everywhere, and go to the farm and to their other investments, and is safe. The level of safety in big cars is bigger than in small cars. So they buy these cars for safety and for the practicality that they bring. And that is why you will not see highly wealthy individuals going for sports cars, because they are not practical or user friendly for them, even as they go to meetings and such other things. So these are misconceptions that people have of rich people. The people who have these fancy sports cars are athletes, rappers, and wannabe millionaires who have not truly made it but want to exude a certain image about themselves that is less than what you imagine. Then the other thing is that they want to be famous. People assume that rich people want to be famous. Actually, they want to live below the radar. In fact, they want to enjoy their wealth in peace. They want to interact with an ordinary person without attracting a lot of attention that is brought about by their wealth. In fact, they live humble lives. Extremely rich people want less of the fame, because they understand that fame comes with additional responsibility and problems and expectations from others. So they do not want to be famous. So if you assume that they want to be famous, then you are wrong. Unless you're a media personality, unless you are a celebrity, unless you are a person who makes money out of the attention that you receive. Otherwise, if you are super wealthy and super rich, you avoid all this fame and attention that comes to you. The other thing is, people assume that they are snobful, assume that they do not they act with snob, and they do not like people and all these things. Actually, let me shock you, it is not that they are snobbing you, it's just that they are too busy. They have a lot of commitments, they have a lot of business, and a lot of people who depend on them to be able to make ends meet. They have a lot of decisions they need to make, they have a lot of meetings they need to attend, and they may not have all the time to give you all the time. And actually, time for them is valuable, more valuable than the average person thinks. So they do not snob you. Actually, it's because they're just too busy. And especially if you have stories that have no head or tail, then they may not have time for you. The other thing, misconceptions that people have, is that the rich pay high taxes. Actually, the percentage of taxes that the rich people pay is lower than the ordinary individual. When the ordinary individual is paying, say, 26%, 30% in income taxes, the rich actually pay a smaller percentage of tax compared to their income. So you might find their percentage tax is like 10%, 15%. Why? They have taken advantage of the tax regimes because they understand how to work these tax regimes, and actually their income is not tied to physical salaries, but rather to other benefits that they receive from the companies that they have and they own, that gives them tax advantages. As regards to paying taxes, they do not pay as much in terms of percentage as you think. The other thing is, people assume that the wealthy love saving money. The wealthy do not love saving money. Why? Because they have come to understand that money that is left and in a bank account, that is left in a mattress, that is left every other place, is money that is not producing an income for you. So they have come to understand that they put their money in investments, in vehicles that are going to generate additional income for them. In fact, they are addicted to income generation and wealth creation, not in just putting money in form of savings and 6 months money that you have kept aside for a rainy day and all these things. They do not do these things. Why? Because they want to put them in income and investments that are going to generate them additional income. So that is their goal in their financial journey. So no savings, just investments, because they understand if they need cash and their name is as good as money, they can be able to get money from a bank just as quickly as you may be able to withdraw money from your ATM. So they have credit cards and all these things that they can be able to take advantage of cheap finances, money that you have kept in the bank. They can be able to access it and use it without having to liquidate the investment. So they do not save, they invest. Then the other thing that people assume about them is they assume rich people are the best leaders. This is especially true in poor nations, where they assume that if this person is well put together financially, then they are most likely going to be good leaders. This is poor thought. In fact, many rich people actually know one highly paying skill. They know one highly paying skill that has enabled them to be able to leverage and get financial means through this one skill. They do not know everything. In fact, they are not the solution to everyone's problem. In fact, they only know how to generate wealth based on this one skill or two. But by and large, they only have very limited skills as regards to leadership. So when people elect these rich people into elective positions, they may not provide the best leadership because all they know is to be able to generate profit. All they know is to be able to leverage skills. All they know is to be able to provide capital and all these things. They do not know how to lead, and especially when it comes to providing visionary leadership, even to the less fortunate in society. They end up being leaders for the other wealthy elite and other business leaders because they understand the world through their business eyes. So they do not necessarily make the best leaders. Then the other thing is people assume that rich people sleep and travel more. They assume that they sleep up to 10 in the morning. They assume that they travel all the time. They do not do all these things. In fact, you might be surprised that the owner of a business or your employer actually has a lot of leave days that they have not taken because they're taking a lot of time to be able to build their business. When you are taking your leave days even in advance, they have a lot of leave days that are lagging behind because they do not have the time or the capacity, and they have a lot of things on the table. Then they are able to wake up really early because, again, there are decisions to be made, there are emails to be responded to, there are business deals to be closed, there are networking opportunities to take advantage of, and all these things. They do not sleep as much as you think. Actually, the poor people are the ones who sleep all the time. They're the ones who travel and show pictures all the time. This is a misconception that you have about rich people that you need to come to an end. Then the other thing is that they assume rich people are selfish. Rich people are not selfish. In fact, by and large, they have the same level of generosity as the general population. They are not necessarily generous. They are not necessarily selfish. Actually, they only give as average as the general population. The only thing is that people assume that because they have more wealth, then they should give more. People have this conception or misconception about rich people that because they have a lot of wealth, then they should give more. People have brought a certain expectation to these rich people that is above and beyond the average person, and they assume that money is just there and they feel entitled to this wealth, so that when it is not forthcoming, they assume and label them selfish. No, it is the expectation on them that is misconstrued and should actually be changed. Then the other thing is people assume that rich people have everything. Rich people do not have everything. In fact, there are many things that money cannot buy, and these rich people cannot be able to acquire these things. One of these things is, say, time. When somebody has spent all their time to build their business and they have invested all their time in their business, they may not have enough time for their spouses, they may not have enough time for their children, and that is why extremely wealthy people make the poorest husbands, make the poorest fathers, because they are not available either physically or emotionally, and by the time they are coming home, they do not have the energy or capacity to be able to provide emotional support to their spouses and their children. So they do not have everything, and there are some things that they desire to have, but they do not have these things. Again, wealth comes with a responsibility and a cutoff in the things that you can achieve. You cannot achieve everything. And just like you, they have to find a big balance, especially when it comes to life-work balance, because there are things that money does not automatically get you. Then the other thing is people assume that rich people have buckets of clothes. They assume rich people buy clothes here and there and everywhere. They forget that this culture of heavy shopping every month, every day, every other time is actually a market gimmick that is put so that the people who feel they have some money, they can be able to get their income and buy clothes and shoes all the time. Rich people actually have very few clothes. They only have clothes that are long lasting, that are durable, that are effective, that are efficient, and that they are able to choose. In fact, majority of the rich people have very few in terms of variety of colors in their wardrobes. They do not want to think too much about which color goes with which color, with which makeup, with which what and what. They have very few clothes that have muted colors that can be able to go with any shoe and any clothes. In fact, the only differentiation in their clothes is these are workout shoes for the gym, these are clothes for a meeting, these are clothes for an weekend or an evening dinner or such thing, rather than having thousands of clothes. Actually, people who market this thing of having big closets with lots of spaces market this thing for wannabe millionaires. The truly wealthy do not even have all this time to walk into closet and think for hours on what they're going to wear on their clothing, because they have a strict schedule and strict time and do not want all this additional hassle. Because remember, every additional decision that is unnecessary is taking capacity of your brain that could be used to be able to make more financially efficient decisions. This is what comes into their mind when it comes to making decisions on clothes and shoes and accessories. So that is why they have few clothes. Then the other thing is people assume that they shop all the time and buy things all the time. The capacity to be able to buy does not automatically make you just buy. Actually, they do not just buy because one, they do not have the time to buy. They have the money, but they do not have the time to spend this money. Again, they ask themselves question, what does this thing entitle me to do? Their money is already tied into investments. In fact, they already have projects that are undergoing that are money intensive. In fact, they already have bills that they need to pay for their business and all these things. Their money is always tied. So they do not have, one, the time to be able to shop all the time, and two, the money that is easily accessible to be able to do all these things. And they think about their wealth constantly. That is the other misconception that people assume. They assume because when they have all this wealth, they do not think about money consistently. Wealthy people think about money consistently. They think about the next shilling, they think about the next amount of tax they need to pay, they think about the next salaries they need to pay their employees. They think about money all the time, because again, the more you have, the more is expected of you, the more responsibility you have as regards to money and time, and that is why they always ensure that they are on top of the money game. These are some of the misconceptions that you have been having about wealthy people. Not wannabe wealthy people, but truly wealthy individuals. If you have any additional assumptions that people make as regards to the wealthy people, please leave them down in the comment section. And remember to subscribe to the channel so that this video and others can be able to come direct to you. So thank you and enjoy your day.